This is my new YouTube channel. Really excited to be here. Really excited to share some really cool information with you guys. Anyone who's into polymer clay or knows about polymer clay will know just how exciting this product is. I personally love it, and I've been around it now for quite some time. Just at home in lockdown, wasn't really enjoying myself, not much to do like all of us, and was desperate to find something to do to get rid of the boredom. And I was originally looking at buying a 3D printer. It was during that time of looking on the internet for a 3D printer that this advert for Vimo polymer clay popped up, and I thought to myself, I can definitely do something with that, probably more than I could with a 3D printer. So I looked into it more, and I placed my first order, and I went back on YouTube and started researching polymer clay, and I found a whole load of videos and a whole load of information about polymer clay, but nothing about larger stuff, just mainly small stuff like jewellery and bits and pieces like that, but no one was doing anything in size. I wanted to do big stuff like almost life size, and I realized very soon on that this stuff costs a lot of money, and to do something that big is going to cost me a lot of money. But I wasn't deterred. I still wanted to do it. That's what I felt I wanted to do. So that's what I did. And I found out that as you build these things, that they soon get through an awful lot of clay. And I was using more than I was comfortable with, and had to change some of the methods of what I did so that I could save money and use more of the tin foil base than using the clay, and keeping the clay relatively thin but still being able to work it so that I could get the results that I was looking for. So my first sculpture was a cobra snake. I always wanted to build a cobra snake, and I was going to do it on the 3D printer, so that was obviously going to be my first go-to when the clay arrived. And here's a few photos of me constructing it and some of the details I put in my first attempt with the clay, and I was pretty happy with it. It wasn't perfect, but it came out a lot better than I expected it to, and a lot of people say they like it, so it can't be that bad. And then I moved on and I made a few other projects, which I'll show you some now, going into larger size. And that's where I really did realize that this is something I love, but also it's going to be an expensive hobby with the bigger sculptures. So yeah, I went on from that to do a woman's head, a bust of a woman's head, which was an interesting journey. In fact, if you are interested, you can follow my Instagram, which is Sculpting and Me, all one word. It shows on there the process is a bit more in detail, and how it starts to how it ends up. And likewise, there's other sculptures on there that I've made since then as well, but feel free to check that out. But basically, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed the journey so far, and I'm continuing to enjoy it. I think I've made a few mistakes along the way, like we all do, but it's not about being perfect, it's about enjoying what you do, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I did do a tiger's head, and I will say this, that if you're thinking of doing stuff like that, I found personally to really research the animal that you're going to sculpt. You know, spend a bit of time watching videos, and I actually went to a zoo and spent the whole day in the lion's area watching that, sorry, the tiger's area, watching the tiger all day, watching his expressions, watching how he moved, and it really helped when putting the whole thing together. I also researched like the skull, the shape of the skull, and how it's formed, and then when I did the foil base for it, I used some of the photos of a tiger's skull to form the correct shapes, which again helps later on when you're laying down the clay, that you've already got the base how it should be to be able to build up from there. It really does help, so I would recommend that you do that, and just most importantly, just enjoy it. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to go through some things that are related to polymer clay, really, just an introduction to it, you know, what it is, how it's made, what tools you need and stuff like that. So hopefully I can encourage a few people to take this up because it's quite addictive and it's good fun. So we're going to go through some things and give you guys a bit more information. Okay, so we'll just look at some of the brands first of polymer clay. There's a fair few to be fair, and some are more available in other countries than others, so it varies. So you'll just have to shop about. But the one that I got hooked on was Fimo, and I've stuck with it because I really love how it works. It's a very strong clay. It's got great colours, and it works well for me. But that doesn't mean that it's going to work well for you. And depending on what it is you want to make with your clay, you might find something better. But there's Fimo, there's Sculpey, there's Senet, there's Primo, there's Soulful, there's Padro, there's Super Sculpey, there's Living Doll and Pro Sculpt. There's plenty of them. As I say, in the UK where I'm based, there's certain ones are available but not others. And in America, it will be the same. There'll be different brands that are more easy to get hold of. They're all similar in some ways, but I do believe that you find the one that you're most comfortable with based on what it is you want to do with it. And they come in different types as well, as professional, which is a lot firmer and a lot stronger. Sort of more steered to the person who wants to use it as a business and as a strong sculpture. Whereas you know, if you've got difficulties, say with arthritis, or you've got weaker hands, you might want to use the softer versions because it's easier to use. It's not quite so robust, but you can still do some really nice stuff with it. So it's purely down to the individual tastes and what you're going to be doing. But there's plenty of them out there to choose from, and lots of different suppliers. Amazon is always a good go-to no matter where you live, because Amazon will always stock a certain amount of polymer clay in any country. So if you're really struggling, Amazon would be the place to go. But a lot of like in the UK, like Hobbycraft, places like that do that type of product. You know, they do quite a range, but not. I always found them quite limited. I did go a few times, but they only had very limited stock, very limited colours. It was more of just adding to the shop's display rather than really specialising in it. I think really and honestly, if you really want to get into this and do it on any sort of level, then you're probably best to just get your stuff from reputable online places. I've always found you get it slightly cheaper. You build up a rapport with people as well, and that's nice because they get to know you as a customer. They get to recognise your orders, and they tend to process them a little bit quicker if you use them quite regularly. So if you want my advice, online is probably best and simpler and quicker. It saves a lot of hassle because honestly, I've not been into a shop yet that stocks anything near what I'm looking for. So most of my stuff comes in from online. So that's my recommendation. You don't have to take it, but that's where I would go with it. Okay, so we're just going to cover the last few things now, really, which is like, what is polymer clay, basically? It's a PVC polyvinyl chloride plastic and pigment and plasticizers, which sounds all very technical. Basically, it's a clay that stays soft for as long as you need it to, maybe a day, 2 or 3, or even a few weeks. And then when you're perfectly happy with what you've created, you can cook it in a standard oven at home, and go by the packet recommended cooking time and temperatures. But as a rule, 265 Fahrenheit, 130 C or 135 C is pretty much where most of them recommend that you need to go with it. Keep an eye on it. Don't let it burn. And it's normally around the 30-minute mark, but it depends on the size of the thing that you've created, and the thickness and things like that. A good idea when you're doing stuff in the oven is to put some foil around or over the item that you're baking, so that it stops it from getting burnt or going brown or discoloring in any way. But stay with it, set a timer, 100% set a timer, otherwise you could get distracted. So yeah, that's it really on that side of it. And then it goes hard, and you can then hand paint it or use other colors, other ways of coloring it. There's plenty of things you can do to customize it once it's actually baked hard. I'll cover more on that in future videos, but this video's getting quite long now. I'm sure you want to be getting on with other stuff, so I'm going to try and wrap it up quite quick. I just want to cover a couple of other things with you. Basically, we've gone through the brands. You choose the brand, you choose what you think is going to work best for you. I think tools wise, again, it's very individual. Don't spend too much on tools. There's plenty of things you've got around the home that you can use, and I often use a lot of things that I have indoors or in my kitchen that can create great textures and do lots of crazy stuff. So yes, get the basic stuff, but don't put too much money into tools until you really know what it is you're doing and how you want to do it. You're going to need a knife, you're going to need a mat, you're going to need to keep a clean area. That's one thing you do need to do, because this stuff attracts dust and dirt like no tomorrow. So you need to keep a clean area. That was one of the things I made a few mistakes with. But apart from that, a rolling pin or something you can roll it out flat with. I did get a conditioning like a pasta roller when I first started, but honestly it just keeps messing my clay up every time. I just get color transfer from my previous project onto my next project. I lost a lot of clay doing that, and so now I tend to just do all the conditioning of the clay by hand. Some people still use the pasta rollers, etc., but it's not for me. So don't go too mad on tools. Keep a budget in mind. Don't invest too much straight away. You'll build up stuff over time. You don't need to spend out massive amounts of money at the start, because honestly there's so many things you can use at home, and be imaginative with that, and keep the prices keep the price and the cost of starting up, keep it down. And when it comes to things like the foil, you can buy foil relatively cheap anywhere, and that's a really good thing to start with. If you start playing with the foil and start practicing with the foil, it's cheaper than clay, and you can get your shaping right, and you can do an awful lot with the foil before you even get to the point of putting any clay on it. Because I think a lot of people don't spend enough time with the foil. I mean, if you're making earrings and stuff, then this is irrelevant for you, that doesn't matter. But if you're doing larger stuff, you should really spend a lot of time practicing with the foil, because the foundation of the sculpture is the most important bit, really. Because if you're trying to put clay onto something that's the wrong shape, you're just going to end up wasting an awful lot of money and an awful lot of clay. So I would say practice with the foil, and get the foil down to a fine art, and then the clay will just follow on from there. And just have fun with it. Just do whatever it is you feel you want to do. If you are doing earrings and stuff like that, you can buy the much smaller packs of clay, and I would just get a few of those and practice your shaping, practice cooking. Get everything how you want it to be before you really start spending money on the really colourful stuff, because they do a lot of like sparkly clay, glow in the dark clay, which are obviously more expensive. But when you're just starting out, I would definitely just do some really basic stuff and get it cooked off, and really get your skills set up before you start investing in the more expensive stuff. I mean, if you're anything like me, I was so impatient, I just threw everything at it. But looking back now, I probably was a bit silly, because I did waste an awful lot of stuff. So that would be my recommendation. I think for now on this video, I think I've covered a fair bit, to be honest. I've given you an introduction to me. I've given you a bit of a flavour of what the channel is going to be about. There'll be a lot more coming. This is my first video, so I'm sure I'll look back on this and go, oh no, in a few years' time. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been helpful. Leave any comments below, and subscribe, and I'll post as many as I can up for you, and hope to encourage you to keep going and have great fun with this product, because it is amazing and it's certainly changed my life, and I hope it changes yours. So for now, that's it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you.